Collectors Club.
Big Hairy Summer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
All right, guys, no time for chit-chat, okay? We got to get straight down to business. Big Hairy Summer is here. All summer long, we're over here on the regular show, and on BCC, the other side, we will be looking at stories of high strangeness involving big, hairy monsters, furry cryptids, and of course, Bigfoot herself. And summer is just heating up. We have a couple of live shows coming up that we are very excited to share with you. The first is a live stream show, which means that you don't need anything except a screen and an internet connection to watch. We will be doing our summer clubhouse live stream on popsylounge.com on Saturday, June 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Head over to popsylounge.com for tickets, and if you want to chat with Bryce, Riley, or me after the show, grab an additional VIP pass with your ticket. Again, you don't need an app or anything to watch it, just a screen and an internet connection. So I guess you do need that to watch it, but you know what I mean. You don't have to subscribe to anything. You don't have to download anything. It's just we'll just be on the internet for you if you get a ticket. Then, this is very exciting news. The weekend of July 7th through 9th, we will be in Austin, Texas for RTX, a gaming podcast comedy and animation festival. Access to our live show will be included with your convention pass, and we're told that Ultra and Platinum badges will get you the highest perks. In addition to BCC, we know that there will be a Bat Squatch related escape room happening that weekend, which we have nothing to do with, but definitely we're going to be checking that out. So that's perfect for Big Hairy Summer. So get passes for that at rtxaustin.com. And as of this recording, we're not sure when in the weekend we're going to be on, but if you get a ticket, you'll be able to see us.
Yeah.
We'll keep you guys posted.
Moving up the cryptid pyramid, Bat Squatch, huh?
Yeah. Well, hey, man,
Wow,
I've been a champion of Bat Squatch. Yeah,
making those moves.
I feel like Bat Squatch's escape room is just him punching through a wall. That's all it is. That's how he gets out of it. So also, guys, just to stay what I want to say, up to date with everything that we're doing with these live shows, be sure to follow us over on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club. A lot of you guys mentioned last time that you missed some of these announcements. Just be sure you're following us there, because we will definitely post information over there. All right, let's get into let's bring in this week's guest. He's an old friend at this point. We have him on every summer to discuss our annual theme, and this year we're talking about big hairy monsters. From What's Up Weirdo podcast, please welcome back to the clubhouse, author and paranormal investigator, John E.L. Tenney.
Woo! Hey, gang. I like being the old friend because I always refer to myself as an old man.
That's our old friend.
You're an old soul.
What's up, John?
I'd say you're an old soul for sure.
Something's you hit a certain age and the wheels just start to come off. You can't stop it.
Where would you put that? Where's the turning point?
I think 48.
48. Okay.
I got.
I might push that number forward a little bit and say, I think my wheels fell off last week. So
I'm definitely embracing the mid 40s. I don't fucking care. I'm just gonna go to bed at 9 o'clock. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care about going out anymore. The thrill of waking up and not having the slightest hint of a hangover or having gone out the night before is truly now one of life's most precious gifts. I'm just getting up, going to bed early and getting up early is my new way to party.
I think that as because I grew up as a punk rock kid, right, in the 80s. And it's really interesting to me that now that I'm in my 50s, I've actually become the punk rock ideology that I was thinking about when I was 16. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like when I was 15, I said I didn't care, but I cared.
Yeah.
Now I'm almost 52 and I don't care.
Yeah.
You've achieved
don't
final
give an F.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah. True punk.
It is really nice. I will say that's the one nice thing about aging is like, I just don't give a fuck anymore. I do not care. If this is it, great. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I had that thought the other day. Yeah, this is it. Great. I'm fine. I'm halfway to retirement. Who cares?
So before I go into big hairy creatures for the summer, can I start? I want to go in a timeline. I want to start with small hairy creatures and work my way up to bigger hairy creatures.
Love it.
Great. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Whatever you got.
The one that I'll start with is in 1952 in Michigan.
Oh boy.
I talk about this because it's my favorite case and no one talks about it. It's called the Whatsit. And it was
this rings a bell.
Yeah, I probably talked about it before. It was in Huntington Woods, Michigan in the 1950s. And all throughout, Huntington Woods is about 10 miles north of Detroit. And all through the area for like 3 weeks, people saw a 2 to 3 foot creature with a super long snaky tail.
Whoa.
Giant round ears that ran on its hind legs, and it would run through the neighborhood, and like people would see it in their backyards, and it would hop over fences like 6 to 7 foot tall privacy fences.
That
it would
sounds
hop
a
over
little
those fences.
OG Chupacabra-ish a little bit, because they would say they'd see that hopping big fences too.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just this huge leaping creature, and so the surrounding communities, the police force got involved with trying to catch it because people were seeing it so often, and eventually they caught it.
Oh, okay.
See, you didn't expect the story to actually turn into a catch.
They rarely do.
The Ferndale
That's not how
police,
these shows really work. Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
I don't know how to continue. Well, what do we do with this?
So the Ferndale police, which is about 9 miles north of Detroit, a police officer caught this thing in the middle of the night. Someone saw it in their backyard. He caught it. He got it into a large animal cage. He didn't know what it was. They took it to the police station that night. No one at the police station knew what it was. It was described as a giant chinchilla.
What?
What?
And so
Chinchillas don't jump.
I mean,
Do
they're not 2 to 3 feet tall, I don't think.
No, not at all.
No.
Right? They're like cute little like tribbles.
Yeah, a little
Are
bit.
you sure it just wasn't a cat?
So what happened is at 11 Mile, so Detroit is broken up into mile roads. That's why I keep like for people in this area, how far away from
Listen,
Detroit you are.
We grew up in the 90s. We know about these miles. We all saw 8 Mile. We get
There
it,
you go.
okay?
There you go. Eminem's 8 Miles. Perfect example. So on 11 Mile, or 10 Mile actually, is the Detroit Zoo, which is right near Ferndale, Michigan. The Ferndale police have this creature. So they're like, okay, when the morning comes, we're going to take this creature over to the Detroit Zoo. They're going to tell us what it is. So they take it over in the morning. The Detroit Zoo, the zoologist at the time in the newspaper says, I don't know what it is right now, but we're going to look into it. And then that's the last news article. No one ever talks about it ever again.
What?
You're kidding. What?
Yeah.
This is all too strange, man. What the fuck?
Whoa.
And did anyone follow up? Like any of these reporters say, hey, what was that?
Nope, no follow-up stories. It's reported as being at the Detroit Zoo. They're going to look into it and see what it is. And then it's never mentioned in the newspapers ever again.
Wild.
Whoa, weird.
So when I stumble across the story in the probably late 80s, early 90s, I live in Royal Oak, which is where the Detroit Zoo is. So I'm like, I'm going to go to the Detroit Zoo and find out what happened to the Whatsit, the thing that they caught.
Hell yeah.
So I go there. Of course, nobody from the 50s still works there, but they remember the people that worked there. So I talked to a guy who had worked there, and he said he had never heard about it. I asked them. I file a Freedom of Information Act request with the Detroit Zoo.
Amazing.
No documentation.
Tenney
No one
loves
remembers
dropping a FOIA.
I do.
Yeah.
I love writing paperwork and getting free stuff, free weird stuff. But it vanishes. It's gone. Like there's no paperwork. There's no record of it. I even went to the Ferndale police force and FOIA'd them because there's got to be a police report about it somewhere. Nope.
Right.
No police report about it. Nothing. Tried to contact the officer because the officer who caught it, because he was named in the newspaper articles. I found his family. He had never talked about it. Like no one, like it just collectively just disappears from everybody's memory.
It's like out of a Twilight Zone episode. It's so strange. I mean, if you could conjecture, what do you think happened? Do you think somebody came in and got caught wind of this creature, or and kind of hushed people up about it, or was it just like some strange night out of weird Detroit?
I mean, if I have to think about it in like the most logical, non-paranormal, supernatural sense, there was something running around the Metro Detroit area that was sick and or rabid.
Right.
And it was fun reporting on it when nobody knew what it was. But then when they found out like, oh, this thing like could be causing illness. This thing like was a danger to people, and we've been laughing about it for the past 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, that
time to
tracks.
kill that story. Yeah.
But why wouldn't anyone know what it was?
Yeah, I mean that's what freaks me out, and the description of it is so strange because like multiple people saw it over the course of weeks and all described it like 2 to 3 feet tall with a long snake-like tail and these big round ears.
Yeah.
Jumping high over. And that doesn't sound like any kind of,
anything.
I mean,
Nothing at all.
anything.
No.
Unless it was some kind of like sick, like what are those, like Savannah cats?
Savannah cat. All right, I got to Google Savannah cat now.
Yeah, but
so they're like, there's these cats that people will sometimes keep as pets, and they're giant, like Savannah cats.
Okay, yeah. They kind of look like ocelots or something. Is that?
Yeah.
What I'm thinking.
But the fact that no one at the zoo should have known what it was.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. A zoologist would have been able to like take one look at it and lay claim to whatever type of species it was, rabies or not, or even any type of change in form or anything. It all sounds very strange to me. It's not unprecedented that in cases where creatures do get caught. I'm reminded of the Virginia UFO case where 2 patrol officers, 2 police officers did manage to capture that alien that was crossing the road. Only we kind of do know what happened after that. But this one, it seems that everything just sort of falls off the map and everybody goes quiet about it. It's very strange. I don't know.
Because the logic is, even if it was a rabid animal, they could just be like, oh, it was just a cat, no big deal or whatever, and move on. You know what I mean? Like nothing to see here.
Right.
So it seems more suspect if you like don't even name the animal.
You don't name the animal, and again, like I keep pointing out, like this was something that was reported on over and over for weeks. So like at the time, like my dad still to this day is one of those guys who like reads the daily newspaper from cover to cover and knows all the local stories that are going on. Like back then, there had to have been a lot of people in the 50s like, what the hell happened to that thing that we've been chasing for 3 weeks?
Right. Did they ever round up? Did it ever get so bad that like a monster posse formed? Because usually in these small town Detroit's not a small town, but usually these monster posses form.
The police chased it. Like in the news articles, it says, the police are on watch. The police are keeping guard in the neighborhoods, that type of thing. So the police were looking for this thing.
That's a good
also
punk band name, Detroit Monster Posse.
Yeah, there you go. It's also very similar.
They opened for ICP.
It's also very similar to a story we just did over on the other side about the Brass Knocker Hill monster in England, which is near Bath in the late 70s and mid 80s. A 4-foot tall baboon-like creature was seen running around that no one ever identified. And at times they said it was like a polecat, which we learned was sort of like a ferret. I didn't know that. And then And then at other times, like one of the police officers was like, "Oh, it was a chimpanzee. I saw a chimpanzee out there," but it just kind of just evaporated. The story evaporated.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other thing aside from like a sick or rabid animal is like when I realized there were no notes or like files at the Detroit Zoo and like no way to track that back. Like I thought to myself, maybe the zoo let something dangerous out that they like, maybe it didn't look like people were describing. They were just, seeing something weird at night. Right.
Right.
But if one of our chimps or one of the gorillas got loose or something, like that would be a big no.
You hear
Right.
about that stuff. You do hear about that stuff. I'm curious. This makes me wonder, and this is something that I've thought about, and I want to get into some other cases, but I just want your opinion on this, John. When we go back and we read, like I have it right here, books like Strange Creatures from Time and Space by John Keel, classic, book of high strangeness. It feels like 50s, 60s into like mid 70s, probably. The apexing with the Mothman case, it just really seems, and I don't know if this is John Keel who gave us, as far as I know, the term big hairy monster, coined that phrase to just sort of put everything under an umbrella term, but it seems like there was this rampant wave of small town monsters or local monsters like this, where everyone seemed to have a creature that was running on the loose. And I feel like somewhere maybe in the early 80s, even though we do have these outlier cases like the Beast of Bray Road well into the late 80s and early 90s. Was there just like something happening during that time period, or do these stories still happen, but they just aren't as widely publicized or talked about?
I think the biggest difficulty was, I think that there have probably always been weird creatures running around all over the place that people have seen.
Mm-hmm.
But really with the kind of acceptance of modern technology, when all of a sudden there were multiple television channels and multiple newspapers and stuff in let's say the 60s, right? Like, I think that's where you start to get into people hoaxing stuff because it's a way to get in the paper, right? Like in Michigan, we had this case of this blue alien that people were seeing running along the roads. And that went on for like 6 or 7 years. And then, 20 years later, a couple of guys show up with the suit that they were wearing when they were in high school and like explained the whole blue alien, that they were the blue alien that everybody was seeing, right?
Okay.
So I think that, at least in my research, because you guys know I've talked about like the formonauts and the weird like things that people see around here. I still think people see them. I think that now though, okay, I'm going to get into something a little bit deeper at the same time and staying on track, but being a little deeper. Right?
Yeah, let's go.
So like I talk about the weird stuff that I've seen and aliens and weird investigations I've done and ghosts and stuff. But when you have had an experience that is truly paradigm shifting, you become changed. Mm-hmm. I will talk about my death experience in a very kind of quick, cavalier way, but I don't like to discuss it because it has altered my way of being, thinking in this reality. Mm-hmm. When I watch television and I see people who are like, oh, I see Bigfoot all the time. Oh, I see ghosts all the time. Like, I know you saw something and you think you saw something, but when you for sure 100% absolutely know that you have seen this thing, that it is a real thing, it borders the edges of insanity.
Right.
Yeah. And people don't discuss it when it really is that real. Because what ends up happening is, I mean, look at, it was acceptable for a long time pre-psychology, pre-psychiatry, right? Like people talked to angels, people talked to denizens from the sky and God and Saint Michael. That was a very common thing, right?
Sure, yeah, totally.
Psychology and psychiatry comes along in the early 1900s, and now everyone is crazy for having an experience like that. And so people just naturally okay, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to be that real about it. I'll write my books about all my weird stuff that I have, but I'm not going to get too deep about it. When I hear people who have talked to aliens, and I'm just trying to be honest here. You guys know I don't have any secrets.
Yeah.
When I talk to someone who tells me that they talk, and when they talk about it very openly, when they talk to aliens every single day or every week, or they have continual experiences with extraterrestrials, it's not that I don't believe them, but there is a part of me that's conditioned to be like, oh, this person has an issue.
Right.
Mhm.
Sure. I mean, we struggle with that on the show. We'll hit certain stories of high strangeness where we're like, okay, as open as we are and as much as we love these stories, there are times we come across cases where I'm like, I think this person was dealing with something maybe a little bit more in the category of a mental health crisis. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you don't know. And that's the thing is especially when you're dealing with things to push reality. Last time you were on the show, we talked about, or one of the last times we talked about the silhouette of the alien gray I saw at my window, and if my dogs had not reacted to it, I would have thought I was hallucinating. If I had in high school, if I hadn't seen the ghostly image of a little girl staring at me out of the window at Traverse or Interlochen, Michigan, if my friend hadn't seen it standing next to me and said, "Do you see her pigtails?" I would have thought my mind was playing tricks on me. So, especially if you're going through these things alone, you know what I mean? It's hard to tell what's real and what's
but
not.
I think as researchers too, like, because I always tell people, like the paranormal and supernatural, the occult world, like it's very good at strengthening our bullshit detection, right? But the thing is like you have a UFO experience, you have a gray experience, Michael, that that you had, right? But there's a part of your mentality, of your psychology, that keeps it unreal to you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Still question it and go, I don't know what it was. It looked like that, but I absolutely cannot fully accept it. And when I
Right.
saw the ghost, I remember having gone from, ooh, that'd be so cool to see a ghost, to I wish I hadn't fucking seen a ghost. Because what kind of world do we live in where a little girl dies and stays where she died? Like, it made me go, well, maybe there's no God, maybe there's no this, maybe there's no afterlife, maybe we're just trapped here forever. And that shit fucked me up for a little while.
Well, I think it's healthy that, and people do that to try and keep one foot in the sane world and one foot into their experience, just because they don't want to be labeled crazy. A couple of the witnesses I spoke to on Expedition Bigfoot, and they hit some of those markers that you were talking about, John. One was that they were just getting so old that they didn't give a fuck anymore. Two, they had never even told their close family members, and they're sort of reliving this trauma is really what it is. It's a paradigm shifting encounter that sort of acts as this traumatic experience. That it's like a pre-encounter and a post-encounter, and that's a marker in their life. And it's rare that you find those type of witnesses where you're like, when they're regaling their encounter with you, you feel it from the inside, like there's something visceral about this person's experience that altered the way they view reality.
Yeah, for sure. And I think all of this ties into the fact that like these things still happen, but like to have a confluence of a certain amount of mental fortitude, a certain amount of grounding in reality, also a certain amount of knowing that if you say something to someone and it gets out, like, how's that going to affect your job? Like,
Yeah.
50 years ago, 60 years ago, things were, you didn't have as many newspapers. You didn't have everybody knowing what was going on and being able to question you. You can go on Twitter and all of a sudden 30 million people are questioning you all at once. Like, that does some psychic damage too to you. Like, as soon as you say, oh, I saw something, and now 1 million people are going to question your experience at the same time. So I still think it happens. I just think it's so much murkier. And to your point, Bryce, like, I wrote a book. I went out, this is maybe 11 years ago. I went out and interviewed 15 contactees who channel aliens, right? The only thing that they really had in common was, after I was done interviewing them, because they signed non-disclosure agreements with me, and I was going to change their names. Every single one of them said, I would appreciate if you wouldn't publish this until after I died, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
The something else that came up for me there, talking about the ghost thing that hit a larger note of like, it's also this idea of the religious paradox that it has for people. And I know that's happened, Bryce, with people you've interviewed on Expedition Bigfoot, just from watching the show, this idea of, and we talked about it in Ryan Sprague's episode recently about UFOs in the military. Some of the top brass in military don't want to investigate this stuff because they think it's demonic. This idea that Bigfoot might be some type of devil or demon, that alien grays are some type of demon. So there's also, on the other side of the spectrum of psychology, there's people that are scared of these stories because of the spiritual ramifications that they might have for them or their belief system.
Yeah, you're dealing with people's religiosity, absolutely, which is ingrained in everybody, whether we like it or not,
Yeah, I mean, the idea, it's always really crazy to me not crazy to me, but it's always really interesting to me when I start to discuss that aspect of paranormal phenomena, which are people who are in elected positions of power that are making decisions based on something which to me is supernatural and paranormal.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
It's like, we can't do that because I don't believe in your ghosts. My ghost is telling me that your ghosts aren't real.
Yeah, I know. Why, Christmas spoilers, why is Santa not real, Mom? But the Holy Ghost is real. I don't get it.
Why we're all so screwed up. Jesus.
So, Tenney, moving up from smaller to larger, what are some of the more, like we've talked about Michigan Dogman on the show, but what are some of the more, I think also last time you were on last summer, we talked about a Bigfoot-like creature that was lurking around an old penitentiary or asylum out in an area that you were
No, I think we probably talked about 1965. We probably talked about Atomic Bigfoot, which was the Bigfoot that was over by the atomic power plant in Monroe, Michigan.
Okay, that does ring a bell.
That's the one that reached in the car, grabbed a girl, punched her in the face, tried to pull her out of the car.
Wait a minute. I don't know if we talked about this.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so let's rewind. Let's talk about Atomic Bigfoot.
Also, Atomic Bigfoot. What a phrase. I mean,
Atomic Bigfoot.
I've been trying to turn that into a comic book for like 20 years. Atomic Bigfoot.
Atomic Bigfoot is opening for that other punk band that Bryce, I can't remember.
Detroit Monster Posse.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, exactly.
And Atomic.
That sounds like a good lineup.
Yeah, I think that's a good night right there.
Let's talk about Atomic Bigfoot.
All right, so 1965, Christine Van Acker, who I think is 17 at the time, and her mom are driving home from just a girls' night. They're going down a dirt road. They come to a stop sign. A giant hairy creature bounds out of the forest. Her window is down. It reaches in. When it reaches in to grab her, it punches her in the face with its hand. It grabs her hair and tries to pull her out of the driver's side of the car. Her mom grabs her, pulls her in, and presses Christine's foot down on the gas so the car takes off. They leave the thing behind in the dirt. About 20 minutes later, they get home. They call the police and have this report. The police are headed out there because about 20 minutes after that happened to them, some women about a quarter of a mile away were coming home from a bridge game that they were having, and a giant hairy creature jumped out in front of their car and slammed its hands on the hood of their car and dented the whole hood of their car and then disappeared off into the forest. So that led to what you were talking about, the monster posse. This spreads out into 1,500, 2,000 people combing the woods of Monroe, Michigan for a couple of weeks trying to find this monster that was seen by, Christine Van Acker, her mom, and these women. But the problem is there's a large portion of that forest which is cordoned off and secured away from everybody because there's an atomic power plant there. And so you can only go so far before you can't go onto the property of the atomic power plant. People have speculated that there's an atomic Bigfoot out there.
So good.
Does it glow? Does the atomic Bigfoot glow in the dark?
Of course it glows, Michael. Come on.
Come on.
It does not glow. But if you look on, if you or any of your listeners, if you look online, if you look up like Monroe Monster Christine Van Acker, you will actually see the picture from the newspaper where she has her black eye from where it reached in and grabbed her.
That was my next question. So there's like, she's got physical, wounds. The car is dented. So there's physical evidence to this encounter. But what do you make of that? Like, what could this have been?
So it's one of the rare Bigfoot attacks.
This is great. I'm putting this.
It's one of the rare
chat.
like Bigfoot attacks. But what's funny is, of course, the way that the police are investigating the stuff. A couple weeks goes by, and they finally released their final report, which was it was probably a man wearing a woman's fur coat.
Okay,
please come on.
All right.
And there ends like, and what's really interesting, I was actually talking to Cliff Barackman about this because Christine Van Acker, the girl involved in the case, is still alive. She was, 1765 when it happened. She's never been on a documentary. No one's ever talked to her like on camera.
We gotta get her on BCC. We gotta get this story.
Her grandson has gone on YouTube before and talked about how his grandma was attacked by Bigfoot. Like,
oh wow,
she's there. She's waiting.
Wow.
Does she want to talk about it? Yeah.
No, she is hard to get a hold of. She's there. I mean, you can find her on Facebook. She's got a Facebook page. But she's, it happened to her when she was young. And
sure,
I did a lecture one time and actually had a heckler in the middle of it scream at me, an older gentleman, that he was like, I was the guy in the fur coat. And I was like, and so I just asked him a couple of quick questions about the case. And of course, he didn't know anything about the case. He was just, I had mentioned that there had been a fur coat was the resolve. And so he had enough drinks to where he thought, well, this is my moment to shine.
This is so funny. Like, so I'm in a group text chat with, a few different Bigfoot group text chats, but one of them, probably one too many, but one of them happens to be with the people from Expedition Bigfoot. And it's funny, Maria Mayer sent me this the other day. This comes from Patica. In a bizarre turn of events, a McCracken County man. Does anybody know where that is? McCracken County, Patica? Anyway, McCracken County man claims that he suffered a head injury during an encounter with Bigfoot. Zach Lancaster, 24 of Patica, says
Kentucky,
he was out.
Paducah.
Okay, Paducah, that's it. Says he was out hiking in the woods near High Point when he suddenly stumbled upon the elusive creature. Quote, I was just minding my own business, enjoying a nice hike in the forest, when all of a sudden, this giant hairy monster jumped out at me. End quote. Lancaster recounted, quote, I tried to run away, but it was too fast. It hit me in the head with its massive fist, and I blacked out. End quote. Lancaster claimed that he woke up hours later dazed and confused with a huge lump on his head, and I have a picture which I'll show you. Quote, I knew right away that I had been attacked by Bigfoot, he said. I mean, who else could it have been? Lancaster reported the incident to the McCracken County Sheriff's Department, who immediately launched an investigation. Quote, judging by the size of the wound on the man's head, there's only one reasonable explanation, says Deputy Johnny Drake with the MSCSD. Without a doubt, it must have been a Sasquatch that attacked this man. This is a developing story. I love that Johnny Drake is so sure. But look at this. Look at the knot on that guy's head.
Whoa.
That is. Did he see a doctor? That's wild.
That does not look good.
But that was so synchronicitous. I mean, getting hit in the head by a Bigfoot. There are those stories out there.
What's up with Bigfoot just jumping out of nowhere and sucker punching people?
Why? We're at this point in television and reality shows, and no one has done a Bigfoot attacks documentary.
I mean, come on, it's just sitting there.
It's waiting.
Man,
you got to get that over to the Tooth and Claw boys. Have them read that article.
Jeez.
Atomic Bigfoot. I love it. What's your take on the Michigan Dogman? Did you know? Is this a tulpa situation where something that started out as a joke became real?
Is
this
Bigfoot evolving?
What is it?
Well, you know, it's one of
Answer
those. I think we've talked about it before. I think it's one of those things. I think there probably is some type of upright canine in the general area. I mean, Wisconsin and Michigan are basically connected through the Upper Peninsula, right? Like it's not that much of a swim. But you know, you have Dogman in Michigan and in northern Ohio, Dogman in Wisconsin. It's like this general area where people spot an upright canine. But it's one of those things though, right? Because it's based on perspective. Like if I'm looking for Dogman and I see a hairy thing in the woods, I'm going to say I found Dogman. But if I only know about Bigfoot and see an upright hairy thing in the woods, I'm going to say it was Bigfoot. So who knows how many times people have saw Dogman and we're just calling it Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah. I also like the theory that Dogman is Bigfoot wearing wolf furs.
Oh, I like that one too. Yeah, but I mean, I've investigated Dogman cases in Michigan, and the thing about Dogman cases in Michigan is they are far more bizarre than like near Alpena, Michigan, in northern Michigan. I investigated a Dogman case where a Dogman was
Is that in the
leaning
UP?
a lower peninsula, but northern Michigan, on the opposite side of where Interlaken is.
Okay.
But the Dogman was leaning against a fence, like with one of his arms resting on the top of the fence, and he was smoking.
Wow, that's a cool dude, dog.
And when the farmer went to approach him, he had to come across the field to get to him. This thing flipped backwards over the fence and then took off into the woods.
That's like the wolf guy from the Tex Avery cartoons. That's like that's cool. Was he wearing a zoot suit as well?
He said that it looked like a coyote smoking.
I just imagine that last drag where it's like, and then over
the fence. God. But then you have Dogman encounters too, like in Defiance, Ohio, right, where a couple of guys were attacked on a railroad. That's in northern Ohio, but a couple of guys were attacked on a railroad by a Dogman. But they described the Dogman more like Wolfman. They said he had on like a flannel ripped shirt and half ripped jeans, and that Defiance case went on for a couple of weeks with people seeing, you know, a more wolf man than dog man.
Wild.
God, so strange.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
No, go, please.
No, go.
I was just gonna say aren't there stories too of like Bigfoot creatures wearing clothing? I feel like that's also a phenomenon.
Yeah, so I was going to go from atomic Bigfoot to Big Toe in Michigan. So in Michigan in the 1970s, there were the first report was from these guys called the Anderton brothers. In the 1970s, they were hunting and they were up in a tree blind. They were deer hunting and they got woken up by what they thought was a loud thunder crack. And they looked down and kind of illuminated in the moonlight because they were in an area that had been cleared so they could hunt for deer. When they looked down, they could see a giant hairy creature that seemed to have on like armbands.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah,
like an old-timey bartender?
Like silver armbands up its arms, but it was fully hairy creature. But they could see the silver armbands kind of reflecting in the moonlight.
Whoa.
And then they noticed that it also had it like these silver bands like beneath its knees to like where its feet would be. So it had like these silver bands on. And then they didn't know what it was. They thought when they first reported it, they thought it was like they reported it as a big hippie. Right? It was the 70s.
Just coming back from jazz class. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like aerobics Bigfoot.
So as they were watching it, there was where they thought that like lightning had struck. There was this huge pop and flash, and then they couldn't see it anymore. When their night vision kind of came back, it wasn't there anymore. And in the morning, they went down and they found footprints that were 15 to 17 inches. Whoa. But it looked as if where the five toes would be was one toe, and then there was an extremely big toe.
Weird.
So they
Wait.
couldn't.
So
like two-toed.
So
Yeah, two-toed.
like when okay, yeah, got it. Like if you're wearing socks in flip flops, it's gonna make
Yes.
that kind of shape. Which you don't do that. But that look weird.
I really want to attempt a drawing.
So that's like when I always think about Bigfoot wearing clothes, like I think about those silver armbands. Yeah,
There we go.
for sure.
Beautiful illustration, Bryce. Yes.
Perfect
Good
illustration.
job, Bryce. Very detailed, highly detailed.
But yeah, I mean, it's so strange because again, you have some guys, right, that are just out to deer hunt. They don't want to see a silver band, two-toed, big toe creature in the woods.
Right.
No.
And so, of course, people went out after they reported it. I think it was in the Grayling News that they reported it. And so people in Grayling, Michigan, which is Lower Peninsula but still north, went out and looked for it. And I think there was one other sighting of something strange that was similar to the big toe prints, but then no one ever saw it but those two guys.
God, man, that's weird. I don't know what to make of these big hairy monsters that also seem to be so sci-fi at the same time. You know what I mean? Like the weird silvery or green jumpsuit stuff of the grinning man that was happening. It does seem to be a wave of the checkered pattern suit of the Eggmen standing at the side of the road. I think in the Zeffirelli, was it the Zeffirelli alien case? There is this precedent in these stories of creatures wearing weird costumes, and you get it's at a certain point, this is a hat on a hat, right? So what is the logic behind a smoking Dogman, behind a Bigfoot wearing perhaps parts of armor? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I've, as when I first started researching, sure, aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts, it's all super interesting. But then, like you said, what really starts to fascinate me is, okay, here's this weird thing, and here's the weirder thing about the weird thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It just throws a monkey wrench into any sort of working theory that you may have. You understand right away why an organization like the BFRO just omits anything that's outside the parameters of just your standard Bigfoot sighting. It's got to have 5 toes. It's got to be big and hairy, and that's it. You know what I mean?
No
armbands. We don't know armbands, no cigarettes, no hats. We don't want to know shit about anything else. And I get that sometimes. It's because it's hard enough trying to figure out just what the hell is going on out there. But when you start adding smoking Dogmen and jazzercise Bigfoots, you're just fucked from the get-go,
Yeah.
But it's not, but it's happening. And that's what grabs you, John. That's what grabs me too, is it just alludes to a larger mystery at play.
But is it, I mean, I'm sure we all think about stuff like that. Is it a way that as more and more people, let's say throughout the 60s and 70s, more and more people start to get interested in Bigfoot books start to come out, Bigfoot's being talked about, some larger aspect of the phenomena is okay, we've got to chill these people out. And the only way we can do that is making them all look crazy. Right. So let's give them a Bigfoot that has silver armbands and silver leg bands.
Yeah, it's like AI trying to write a really great script with twists and turns right at the right spot. It's gonna miss it. It's gonna mess it up, and it's gonna seem almost inorganic some way. And yeah, I love that idea that this phenomenon is interpreting how we think things might want to look, and so it's playing around with different ideas, and every now and then it just gets it way wrong,
But then there's also the
back
building
to the old school,
There's the building on the idea though that it's intentionally doing so, to throw everyone off the scent, so it's
sure.
There's the question there too: is it a mistake, or is it a camouflage in a way?
Yeah, right.
Well, and that's, I think, I've talked about this with a lot during my lectures, and I've talked about it for years and years with different friends who are investigators and researchers, which is, there is a part of the phenomena, it's actually hearkening back to what we were talking about earlier. Like there is a part of the phenomena that wants you to get lost.
Yeah.
And move off of the trail. Like when you start to like really obsess over one case, you know, and then you start to see it, it synchronizes with everything that I'm doing, and everything is, and that's where you are. It's gotten you off the trail.
Yeah.
Like you still haven't answered your original question. Now you're onto a completely different question. You can only think about that other question. You're seeing that other question everywhere you go, and you've lost sight of the you know, I talk about it. I've said it to you guys on the show all the time. Like you get wrapped up in the tentacle and you miss the octopus.
Yeah.
That,
like that
sounds a lot to me like what happened in the Betty Andreasson case, which we covered on a deep dive last spring. Like starts off with a pretty, like very bizarre, but like an alien abduction case that you can hold in your hand, and you can point to some of the weirder aspects of high strangeness to it, you know, even into the alien realm that she allegedly went into. But then as you keep hearing about more and more of her experiences, they get more bizarre and more dreamlike and less like the original experience that she had. It's almost like, you know, okay, the first movie was really good and made a lot of sense, and now we're on the seventh movie, and I don't even know what the writers are doing here anymore. Like, this is not, it's become like a completely different franchise. I don't get it.
It's like Jaws 3, where you're like, just move. Like the shark
like,
is like terrorizing people in the neighborhood, you know?
We're like, wait, now
now.
the shark, now this shark knows the family that killed the other shark, and he's like coming after them personally. But the other thing that happened, so John, I think too, obviously, as you're describing the phenomenon kind of maybe throwing us off the path or intentionally giving us these new ideas or new bizarre things, there's this other thing that's happening in mass culture where we are also simultaneously all agreeing on, okay, here's what these things look like, right? A Bigfoot looks like this. It's 7 feet tall. It's, 700 pounds. It's big, hairy. It looks like Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. An alien looks like an alien gray. That's what an alien is. UFOs look like this. Ghosts are transparent people that float above the floor. So we're also collectively coming up with these definitions of what these things are. And sometimes maybe the phenomenon is being like, no, just don't, you guys don't get to, as a mass culture, stop trying to define this thing as one thing,
Or since we've all agreed what these things are, ghosts are transparent people and aliens look like this and Bigfoot's a big hairy creature, like, does it feel freer now exposing itself to certain individuals who don't think in that manner, and then those people sound crazy to us, when in actuality that's more what it looks like than what we've all agreed on what it looks like? I mean, if you think about think about Bigfoot in the sense, right, like the original Bigfoot stories that we have, or large hairy man creature stories, right? They are traditionally, whether it's the original inhabitants of North America or in Europe, Bigfoot is the green man. He's a nature spirit, right?
Yeah.
And now we've all agreed that it's a big primate.
Yeah.
Right.
But he was like a man with a beard with like a laurel crown of leaves around his head and like a staff.
Who came from a different dimension, a spiritual dimension that wasn't ours.
And he's got a oddly shaped, uncircumcised, hairy penis because they're in all the old drawings.
Yep.
Looks like a sea cucumber.
Yeah. Like
but now we've all agreed that it's like a big, hairy, ape-like thing, right?
Right.
So that original thing that it was doesn't have to worry anymore. Because we're all focused on seeing it something else as it.
Right.
Okay.
We're like, you didn't see a Bigfoot? That's crazy. I know what a Bigfoot looks like.
Right.
Well, let's take that and run with it. Why would it worry? Why would this thing worry about us seeing it? Because we can all agree that at least when it comes to Bigfoot stories, it seems like this thing wants to remain hidden. Aliens seem to want to announce themselves here and there, but Bigfoot, unless he's sucker punching an innocent, hiker, seems to want to be elusive. So what are they worried about? Seems like we should be worried.
I mean, in the easiest sense, if like, what a great camouflage. Like, we always talk about, like, Bigfoot is the greatest, like, hide and seek champion, right? Like, there's that joke that it can stay hidden. Well, like, what a good trick into making us think it's this giant hairy ape when it's something completely else. Now we've all focused and we're all looking for Bigfoot tracks, and we're missing this other crazy thing that's happening because we're all looking for the big hominid that's walking around the forest.
Yeah.
Like, it's effectively completely hidden itself from everyone on the planet because it's made us all think it's a giant, hairy, upright primate.
Right.
I like
right.
that.
Like
I like
this,
that a
yeah.
lot. I mean, it's a house of mirrors, yeah, and meanwhile, we're really missing the crux of what's taking place and how and why it matters to us as a human species. You know what I mean? We're also focused on finding and capturing and proving when meanwhile maybe we should be looking elsewhere and exploring, why are people seeing these things? Not what they are seeing, but what's the purpose behind it all?
And, I've said this in lectures and I've said it before, and I will continue probably to say it for years, which is like part of the reason that any of these things might exist is just to generate conversations about existence and the nature of reality.
I love
Like,
that.
it may just be a mechanism that the phenomena, the universe has manifested as a way to get us to talk to each other, because it's like, you actually don't do good alone.
Son
Like,
of a bitch, we're playing right into its hands.
Right.
Totally.
Like, and then, if I look at like how crazy stuff got when we were all quarantined, like I was getting tons of crazy stories, and it's as if the phenomena was saying like, yeah, like I was saying, you guys don't do good alone. Like, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff to talk about to each other. You need to talk to each other.
I like that. I'm just one big conversation starter, you guys. That's all I am.
Yeah. If you look at some, like, how do you get someone like with the background, whether, he's from Europe or whatever, but how do you get someone like George Adamski, who's, working at a hamburger shop at Mount Palomar Observatory? How do you get him to talk to a farmer like Buck Nelson? Like, they don't have anything in common. They got no reason to talk, but all of a sudden they have this shared experience that they both say that they've seen people from space, and now they're talking to each other, and now huge groups of people are listening to them, and all of a sudden, like, it really does seem like some sort of mechanism.
Yeah, most definitely.
Does that then seem like it roots from consciousness itself, like, and that sort of like the root of what makes us become aware and needing to engage with each other to survive? Or like, does that have a similar root logically?
I think so, probably. I think that there's probably some, a nice thought is that, we are all interconnected on some consciousness level. Like, our minds are all somewhere else existing with each other.
Right.
And we know we're together there. And then we see ourselves as individuals on this planet, and we're like, but I still need to connect to that other person over there. What can happen? And so then our collective minds are like, make that guy see a Bigfoot with silver armbands.
Right.
Because 40 years later, it's going to make these four guys talk to each other.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
What a weird ripple effect. Yeah.
So, John, before we say goodnight, any other favorite big hairy monster story, whether Michigan related or just in the annals of high strangeness that you like?
So yeah, I always, since it's high strangeness and whatever, but UFO Warning, which is a book that was put out by Gray Barker.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, it's a guy named John Stewart, who was from Australia, who saw UFOs, who had some encounters with MIBs. But in that story, he relates when he sees the creature from the saucers, which he describes as 9 foot tall, short, stubby legs with like duck's feet, long, spindly arms, and a grotesque, like rounded head with a mouthful of teeth.
Whoa. Like a platypus man with no bill.
For some reason, that creature heightens whenever it's around. It heightens like a person's sex drive.
I love
Oh,
it. Do I make you horny, baby?
more
A giant-
spindly arms.
Yeah, 9-foot spindle-armed, duck-footed monster. Do I make you horny?
What does he call? Does he have a name for these entities?
Nope, not at all. Just the creature from the craft. But if anybody gets a chance to look it up, whether it's a real story or not, it's Gray Barker, so you've got to
Right.
throw some caution to the wind. But find a copy. You can probably find a PDF copy online.
UFO Warning?
UFO Warning by John Stewart, published by Saucerian Press. And there's a great picture by Gene Duplanter. I don't know if you know who Gene Duplanter is. Gene Duplanter is the guy who kind of first made that really iconic image of Mothman, the just solid black with the big pie eyes. That's
cool.
Gene Duplanter. That's Gene Duplanter's drawing, and he draws John Stewart's monster. Do you want to see a picture of the monster?
Yeah, put it up in the chat. I'm Googling him. Yeah, Spacecraft News. Oh, God, this is great. Again, for the second time. Oh, my God. I love
that
this.
Qualifies as a big hairy monster. And he does make me horny.
Look at
But he's
those legs.
reaching out to this
I'm getting a
couple.
little turned on right now.
That's sort of what my body is evolving into as I age, honestly. It's a little bit of a fair warning for me.
That's when Bigfoot just doesn't give a fuck anymore either. He's like, these are my real legs. My real
I got
legs.
duck feet. What are you going to do? Fuck off.
My legs and arms stay skinny. My middle gets round. That's how it goes.
And how many times have Bigfooters walked past giant duck tracks and never even thought about it?
There you go.
God, too funny. Holy cow.
Well, Tenney,
wild.
thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we can't go a summer without one of these conversations. You're just the best. You're an endless wealth of information. Where can people find your stuff?
They can listen to my podcast. I do my friend Jessica. What's up, weirdo? It's on
Gotta get Jessica on the show. She's got to come be on.
Oh my goodness
BCC.
gracious! Please don't do that to anyone. That's available on all the streaming services, and then weirdlectures.com has an events page of every place that I'll be appearing. I'll be at Belvoir Winery in a couple weeks, and then Mackinac Island.
When is that happening? As of this recording, this episode will go up in mid-June. When are you going? You're going out to Liberty, right? Back out to Liberty, Missouri.
Yeah, so that'll be over by that time.
Okay.
But in August, I'll be at Michigan Paracon, which is in the Upper Peninsula. And then I think in October is Mackinac Island in Michigan, which is always a good haunting time. Lots of good ghosts and UFOs up on Mackinac Island.
Maybe we should get up to Mackinac. I haven't been to Mackinac in 25 years. That's a cool spot. Awesome, man. Well, we love you, John. Thank you for being part of the show. As always, you'll be back. We're not letting you go anywhere.
Yeah, man. We always so appreciate your perspective. And
no, thanks for having me and letting me babble. And
no, it's the best.
Love it.
Atomic Bigfoot. We found the name of this episode, so that's perfect. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Boy, oh boy, I sure love that man. I mean, it sounds like people don't realize that he's gone now. We're not talking about him in front of him, but what a great guy! What great stories! So much
treasure,
fun.
as far as I'm
Truly,
concerned.
yes, a goddamn national treasure.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, we've got at least 2 other episodes with John, maybe 3. He was on a live stream show, so make sure, you never know who's going to pop up on our live stream show, so make sure you join us on June 24th on popsylounge.com. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app so you never miss a single episode. We want to hear from you. Please rate and review while you're on your favorite app. And if you drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we might read it on the show, like this one.
This is from Seeking Soul 33. The
Oh,
title
hell
is
yeah.
Join the Other Side.
Oh, shit.
The Patreon is worth it and so much more. You don't know what you're missing. 5 stars. That's a double 5
Great.
stars
Wow.
right there.
Yeah,
from
double
Seeking
5
Soul.
stars.
I love
Seeking
it.
Soul doing our job for us, because I was going to say, if you're caught up on the show and you want more BCC, you got to check out our Patreon, BCC The Other Side, where you can unlock 3 bonus episodes every month, plus our entire episode library over there. You can upgrade to Riley's Cosmic Tier and unlock 3 additional BCC soundtracks. It's all over at patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub. And We're going to give a big shout out and thanks to Seeking Soul, but we are also going to give some Patreon shout outs to some other people who have joined the other side recently. Get ready, boys. We're thanking Allison.
Thanks, Allison.
Rochelle Ayers.
Thank you.
Jesse Jester.
Thanks, Jesse.
Melly Trumbo, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, and welcome.
Brian Ince, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome.
Mix Kens.
What's up, Mix Cans?
Michael Orsery, Cosmeteer.
Michael, thank you. Welcome.
Matthew Cagle.
Thank you, Matthew.
John McEdward, Cosmeteer.
Thanks, John. Welcome.
Sergeant D. Thorne, 1862, Cosmeteer.
Salute to you, Sergeant. Welcome.
And Monica So, Cosmeteer.
Oh my God, so many Cosmeteers. Thanks, Monica. Welcome.
Yep. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club and on TikTok at BCC Pod. Don't forget about the Clubhouse live stream on June 24th on PopsyLounge.com. Come see us at RTX in Austin, July 7th through 9th. And if you're over on Instagram, why don't you give me a follow at McMills. Bryce, Riley, what do you boys have?
Yeah, hit me up on those socials. I'm on Instagram at Mr. Bryce Johnson and at Twitter at Bryce O. Johnson. Follow our Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club. That's a good one. It's another side of the show. And if you can travel via car, via plane, come see us in Austin on July 7th, 8th, and 9th. We're going to be there. We want to hang with you.
Yeah,
I am so excited for Austin. It's been a while since the boys got our show back out on the road.
We need a summer field trip, and this
we really do.
Right form.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Peace Drone. And yeah, I mean, check out the live stream. They're a lot of fun. Check out the Cosmic Tier. That's a lot of fun. I mean, we're having a lot of fun. Join the other side and
all I gotta
have fun
do.
with us.
And stay tuned. Riley's been playing a lot of live shows, so make sure you're following him to stay posted. He's got multiple bands where you get to go see him live, sometimes looking gorgeous in a pink princess dress. So you don't want to
Yeah,
miss
we're going to
that.
go see him tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you are.
It's too
Looking
late for you
forward.
guys, but
you
it's
missed
happening.
it.
It's in
Should
the
have been
future
there.
for us. One last thanks to John E.L. Tenney. We will see you back here next Wednesday for an all-new episode of BCC. Until then, good night.
And go get regressed.
Big Harry Summer.
Horny platypus foot spin arm monster.
I'll make you horny.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is executive produced by Michael McMillan, Riley Bray, and Bryce Johnson. Our show is engineered, produced, and scored by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters. Follow them on Spotify. Want more BCC? For exclusive full-length episodes every month and total access to the other side, check out patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club.